So warm greetings on this Monday morning here in California and different times around the globe. And I want to begin with a well-used kind of analogy. Or if you take a jar that has in it some water and some mud, and you shake the jar, the mud will disperse and dissolve and spread out into all the water, and the water will be murky. Can't see, it won't be clear. If you then leave the jar still, the mud will settle until the water that's above the mud becomes clear and you can see, you have clarity. If you, every few seconds or minute or so, you go back and you shake up the jar, it never really has a time to settle fully and come to that clarity. So the same thing with the mind. What often stirs up the mind, and what is the, if you make an analogy this way, often what is the mud in the mind is thinking. And our thinking can be stirred up. And the thinking itself stirs up more thinking. And so in order for the mind to settle enough so that we can have clarity, a clear mind, see clearly, some degree of settling of the thinking mind is important. But if we try to settle it with more thinking, it just kind of keeps it spinning in the solution. And so part of the function of mindfulness is to be able to be aware of thinking with more stillness than there is in the thinking mind. So that the stillness is the awareness that holds it. And the awareness and the mindfulness doesn't have to be completely still. It has to be stiller than the thinking. So the thinking can begin to settle. And then as it all settles, the mind becomes more settled, awareness becomes more settled, there can be greater and greater clarity. And one of the one of the tools of mindfulness is recognition, to recognize what's happening. So in relationship to thinking, it can be recognizing thinking. There might be a little thought or subliminal thought, thinking. Or if there's a particular kind of thought, like planning, you would say, recognize there's planning happening. Or if remembering the past, very simple, remembering. Don't have to put details into the recognition of what you're remembering, just remembering. Or if there's fantasy, you don't have to put detail in what fantasy you're recognizing, but just there's fantasy. And in that recognition, the art of this is for the recognition to be calmer, more spacious, more open, more settled than what it is, the thinking we're recognizing. And that allows things to begin to settle. So that's the instruction for today, for the sitting. The core thing is that if it should happen during your sitting that you have some thinking, especially if the thinking is quite strong and get pulled into it, don't make it a problem that's the case. But the job is to allow for the settling as opposed to forcing it or expecting it to be instant. And one of the tools for that is to let the recognition of the fact that you're thinking be clear and be calm or a little bit stiller. More like a sense of allowing, okay, there's thinking here. Really let that recognition be really clear. Oh, there's thinking here. As if you're making space and room and letting there be a context of settledness or stillness for the mud to settle. So to begin, by taking a meditative posture, a posture which has some chance of supporting both clarity and alertness of mind, a clarity of mind, but also a relaxing, a settling. And then within this posture, to take some conscious breaths. They could be either deeper and longer breaths than usual, or just very conscious, like you're entering into the experience of breathing within the body. And as you exhale, let the body settle. So much the body is it's almost like the body is the jar. And so we want to settle the jar, let it feel comfortable and still. Relaxing any obvious holding patterns in the body that you can relax and soften. Softening the belly. Softening in the chest. Softening in the shoulders. And softening in the face. And then softening in the area of the brain or the forehead or wherever there might be energetics of thinking, tension of thinking. Let it soften, relax. And very gently, see if you can experiment with having a quiet, calm recognition of your self-thinking. Kind of like you're looking at thinking right in the eye and recognizing it calmly. And sometimes the thinking is more done in words, inner voice. And sometimes it's more in images. And either way, we call it thinking. If it's helpful, you can recognize it as words when it's spoken in the mind, or as images when the mind projects. And for a few minutes more, moments more, experiment. If you can find a way that the recognition is calmer, more settled, in a sense more allowing than the thinking is. So that some of the clarity is the clear recognition that you're thinking. And now bringing the same, or experimenting with bringing a calm and clear recognition. It could be a silent recognition, or it could be a very simple word of recognition. To feel and sense the experience of breathing. As if how we recognize how we're present for breathing is itself the agent of calming, of stilling. How would you bring attention to breathing if attention itself was the very thing that calms, settles, clarifies yourself in meditation? Staying with breathing. But if thinking gets predominant, you get pulled into the world of thoughts. Experiment with this function of recognition. Recognize clearly that that is happening. And see if you can do so with a recognition that's calmer, more spacious than the thinking itself. recognizing what's happening with a calm recognition, as if you have all the time in the world to recognize this is what's happening. And what do you think would happen if calm recognition was the channel through which love and compassion and care flowed? That calm recognition allows for the transmission of being of service to the world. Perhaps calm recognition provides the clarity and the peacefulness with which we consistently come out of meditation, remembering that we're returning to the world, hopefully to make it a better place, so that the benefits, the merit that we have from our practice is something that we share with others in such a way that we're working for the welfare and happiness of all beings everywhere. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be settled in their lives, settled in their hearts. May all beings be free, unobstructed, without oppression, free to allow what's good in them to come out into the world.